Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. Turn a few lights out. We're looking good. Okay. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. Welcome Australia. Saturday afternoon is Australia Day. It is your day. Nice to see you. And I was just, my wife bought a bunch of grass because we have a big spot in front of the house. It's grass not growing. So I was having to deal with that. And while I was running here, we had a crisis of where to dump the dirt. We had a crisis where to dump the dirt. And so I was like, hold on. But here we are. And I, unfortunately, I don't even know the topic. I didn't have time to look at the topic. Sundari Radha, can you bring the topic up? And I will look on my computer also to see where it is. And one thing I don't think I mentioned to you is that we might be discussing something that you feel like, well, it's not a problem that you have. Or maybe it's only a problem when applied in certain situations. Sometimes we talk about things that are problems, and often they're not really problems. They're just problems in certain situations. Excuse me. You know, like sometimes I'm very multitask oriented. I'm doing a lot of things at once. Which if you're putting on like a big festival or you have a lot to do, that's good. But if it takes you away in normal life from doing things that are important, then it's not good. So what's good in one situation is not good in another. So sometimes I might say something is a dysfunction when it's only a dysfunction in certain situations. It's not a dysfunction in every situation. That's one point. So some people may be thinking, oh, I have all these problems. And another point is, a lot of us have these problems, but they're not problems that really, they're not deep enough to really cause much of a problem for us. You know, like Prabhupada, he tells the story. There was a court case in India, and they were trying to determine if the accused, the defendant, was crazy, because you can plea that he was out of his mind at that time, and he did something, broke the law. What did they say? How did they say that? Insanity, complete insanity. So they brought a psychologist in to determine if this man was insane or mentally disturbed, and the psychologist said, as far as I'm concerned, everybody's pretty much crazy. And I think that's true. When you look at mental illness, you see it's just an extreme case of what we all have. We call it ADHD, and you can't focus, and this and that. And I have that all the time. But it's not really a huge problem. I'm Vata. Vata people are like that. That's our nature. But if it gets extreme, then you can't function normally. So sometimes we have what we're talking about, but it's not a severe case of it. It's a mild case, and it doesn't necessarily come up all the time or come up as intensely as what we're talking about here. So that's one point. Second point I wanted to make, and I don't know if we've made this point, was what if we're talking about something and you say, I understand this, or I understood it when I was young, or I never thought about it, but I can see it that I don't do this, I don't have this problem. What's the benefit of hearing? There's two things. Number one, sometimes you don't think you have a problem that you do, and so it's the question, do I really have it? Number two is, if you don't have it, you understand it so that you can help other people. Like, you may not have low self-esteem. I never really understood what low self-esteem was until I studied it, because I saw that people had that problem. They were coming to me. So by understanding it better, then I can help them. And it wasn't really an issue for me. So I wasn't studying so much for myself, but I was studying for them. So you can use these lessons for other people. even if you're not a counselor, it's just sometimes you will see, if you learn what we're talking about, then what you'll find is that sometimes you'll come across a situation and then you'll realize, oh, this devotee or this friend, he has this problem that we discussed in this class, and I understand the problem now, and I understand how to deal with it. So that's something to consider. Like why would you discuss ineffective behaviors? Obviously, one is if I have it, but if you're very, let's say you're very grounded, balanced, psychologically healthy, emotionally healthy, successful, etc., why would you want to study this? To help other people and also to improve, because nobody's perfect. We can always do better. And as I've said before, I don't know if you ever heard me, as I said before, if you can learn something, then by sitting in a whole class, if you could learn something, I'd give you more of a view of Prabhupada. If you can learn something, one thing that is very important for you, if you can learn one thing that's very important for you, even if you have to sit for an hour and a half, you say, I only got one thing, but the one thing I got was so valuable, it's going to make a difference in my whole life, that it was worth it, right? It was worth reading the whole book to get one thing, or worth spending a week in a workshop to get that one thing, if that one thing was such that totally turned you around. So certainly there'll be little things I'm sure you're going to get from this. So you want to do kirtan before we start? Will that be good? I think we should do kirtan, right? Because this is the Hare Krishna movement. That's what they called it last time I checked, right? And especially during this pandemic, there's a lot of kirtan going on. So, should we do kirtan? Yes, okay, we got thumbs up. Okay, I have to move some things over. This direction. Move the camera over. It's not a camera, it's a phone. Move it over here. Here we are. Yeah. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta. Hope I'm not getting you dizzy. Things are kind of tied up, cables. You know, whoever figured out wireless was good, because cables can drive you crazy if you have lots of cables like I do. Our life sometimes feels like we're tied up in cables, doesn't it? You ever have that feeling? That you're tied up in cables? That'd be a good song. I'm tied up in cables. Okay, I'm looking for a certain... There it is, 206. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavari Paschatya Dasatani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanandi. Gauranga Nityananda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, we need a beat, right? Too fast. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. That was the melody we used for Shishastakam that I played the other day. Should I play it for you? A few verses? Let's see. Without you, without you, Lord, a moment feels like a million years or more, and tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world without you, Lord, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world without you, Lord. So Marco is gonna, from Italy, he's gonna help me. This is another song we're gonna do. We're working on some songs. It's yeah, let's sing it one more time. You can sing along. Without you, Lord, a moment feels like a million years or more, and tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world without you, Lord, Shastakam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. That is such a beautiful song, isn't it? Isn't it? This melody came to me when we were doing a retreat outside of Santiago, Chile. I started doing that kirtan, the melody just came. And then, at some point, I put the Shishastaka words to it, and it works so well. I really like that. That your a moment feels like a million years or more, and tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world without you, Lord. And I'm feeling all vacant in the world without you, Lord. So one of you who makes videos, you can meditate on a video for this, with Lord Chaitanya. Tears coming out of his eyes and feeling separation. If that could be done, I don't know, animation or something. Marco, you're going to get to do that song. We'll do many songs together. Hare Krishna. Let's see how it goes. Songs of separation. Yeah. Okay, so today is number 6 of 10 dysfunctions. Of course, there's more than 10, but we're highlighting 10. And these are, you might wonder, where did you get this list? Was it from a book? It wasn't from a book. It was from my own experience in dealing with people, and also my own experience in my own life. Not that I had all these 10 dysfunctions, but some of them, especially when I was younger and more handsome and more stupid. Then, I dealt with some of these. And one of the greatest ways to become a teacher is to make mistakes and then learn how to overcome those mistakes. And so you're not teaching from a book, you're teaching from realization, and that's the most powerful. So, number 6, you have beliefs that interfere with your goals. If you work hard to get something but always fall short, then you have beliefs that are undermining your success and are out of alignment with your goals. You want to be rich, but believe rich people are bad. You want to succeed, but believe you can't. You want to lose weight, but believe you'll never be slim. Or it's too much work. Or there's something. This we could talk 10 classes on, and I've talked about this for more than 10 classes, but I want to give a basic idea that obviously if you want to achieve something, there has to be alignment between not only your effort, but your attitudes and your subconscious conditioning. Because sometimes we do something, we're trying to do something, but we can't imagine that we would ever be successful. We can't imagine that it would ever happen. We'd say something like, I could never do that. Which in some cases may be true. Maybe you could never be the Prime Minister of India. But let's talk about something that you may be trying to do, but somewhere in your subconscious, somewhere like we say in the back of your mind, somewhere in the back of your mind, you're thinking, this is never going to happen. I mean, I wish it would happen, and I'm going to try to make it happen, but you're thinking it's never going to happen. So if I asked you, what's the belief behind that? You would say something like, well, I've never been very successful, and I don't see that I ever could be very successful. There's something there that's holding back your success, telling you, this could never really happen. And you might think, well, could that influence something external just by thinking that way? And the answer is yes, it can. You might say, but isn't it just karma? But this is also karma. Your thoughts are creating reactions, cause and effect. And we're also, under Krishna's karma. So Krishna's also looking at you and looking at your fears and looking at who he can trust and who he can prepare, who he can give. And a lot of times, a devotee, he'll have a very unique way of looking at something. He may say, I could never imagine myself being successful like this. But he also thinks, but I could understand that if Krishna wants it, it could happen. I don't think I have the ability, but I think it would be good to make the effort, and I understand if Krishna wants, it could happen. So in that sense, they're not rooted in a belief like this could never happen. They're more rooted in humility. So you want to understand the difference between humility and a lack of self-confidence. Like when we look at Prabhupada. And so Prabhupada is coming to America, and he's singing to Krishna a song, which we're remixing now. We're re-recording the Prabhupada and the Jaladuta. I did this song on Mahatma's music. You can hear it. Oh Lord, I'm just a puppet in your hand. And if you brought me here to dance, make me dance, make me dance. That song is a song with both things going on. It's doubt. I don't know if I'm qualified, and I don't know if the people are qualified. So now you're in double trouble, right? Sometimes you might be thinking, maybe I could do it, but I don't think the people will reciprocate or understand. Here Prabhupada's thinking, he says, my dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul. I'm useless. And I don't know why you brought me here. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon them, but I don't know why you brought me here. But I don't know why you brought me here. How could I forget that? I just sang it like a few hours ago. And I must have it somewhere. But I don't... Marco, you know it. I sing the words. But I don't know why you brought me to this terrible... I don't know why you brought me to this terrible place. But you must have some reason. But I don't really know how I'm going to do this. I just this is way beyond, as we say, way beyond my pay level. This is beyond the pay level of any Vaishnava in history. I don't know how I'm going to do this. The other side is, but you could do it. So that's a different thing. That is being able to visualize it could happen. So Prabhupada is thinking it could happen, even though I'm useless. I don't feel I could make it happen, but it could happen, and I could be the puppet that you pull the strings on to make it happen. That's an alignment. What I'm talking about here, in this dysfunction, it's a lack of alignment. I want to be successful, but I have serious doubts. My consciousness is it hits a threshold in the sense that I make an effort, but I only make an effort so far because I believe this is as far as I could succeed. And it may not be true. But let's assume it's not true for the sake of this discussion. It's not true, but you think it's true. So because you think it's true, your vision will be decreasing, or it'll be limited based on what you believe you can achieve, even if you want to achieve more. Or the other problem is you're limiting yourself in some way because of some belief, and you don't even know you're doing it. That's the real problem. And so what I said here, I don't know if you noticed this, what I said here is if you're trying to achieve something, and you're really making an effort, and you've made an effort for a long time, and you haven't been successful, it's possible your attitudes, your beliefs are completely out of alignment from your goals, that you have doubts. Or some people are really afraid of success because with success comes certain responsibilities, certain expectations. You lose some level of privacy. You become more a public figure. Sometimes you'll be criticized. Successful people are often criticized, right? So some people they're trying to achieve something, and in the back of their mind, they're thinking, and this again can be a thought that they're not conscious of, that I really don't want to be successful because I don't want to be a public figure. And so their conscious mind thinks they want to be a success, but their subconscious mind is afraid of success, all the responsibilities that go with it, or whatever comes with it, they're afraid of it. And so even though they're trying for it, they don't get it. Hold on, there's too much light. Too much light coming on this side of the world. Just by watching my class, you can know what time of day it is. If the light is on this side, it's afternoon. If it's on that side, it's morning. East, west, that's how you know. So, the interesting thing about this is that in Sanskrit we call this samskar. We call it, samskar means impression. Impression meaning like a habit, a way of thinking, a way of believing. Lots of these impressions come when we're growing up. We kind of develop a worldview, and we develop a kind of an image or an understanding of ourselves that guides us of what we think we can and can't do, which may be true in some cases and may be entirely false in other cases. So, one of the questions you want to ask yourself when you're looking at a situation that you haven't been successful in, and you would like to be successful, is to ask a question. What would someone have to believe who's trying to be successful in this area, but who isn't? And you might say, well, one would have to believe it's not my karma, which could be true. But we know sometimes that believing it's not my karma causes a devotee to give up determination or give up working hard or give up believing in themselves because they think, well, it must be my karma. You know, that's difficult to ascertain. How do you know it's your karma? Maybe it's just that you don't know enough, or you're not working hard enough, or you're not working smart enough, or you need to learn more, or you need the help of others. There could be so many reasons. But there could be this belief, oh, it must not be my karma. And when you become a devotee, this belief it's one of the Hare Krishna beliefs, and maybe even amongst Hindus in general, that can be very strong, that could block efforts. Well, karmically I'm not good at this. And, so there is some truth to that. In some things probably we shouldn't do because we're not good at it and we try to do it and we don't do it well, and it takes a lot of time. Someone else could do it much better, more easily. That's true. But we're talking here more about something that you want to do, that you have some ability to do, and then you're not being successful, and you think, well, it must be my karma. It could be true, but probably most of the time it's not. That's a belief that blocks you from being able to be successful in a certain area because you've written it off as your karma. Now, I think it's important for us to understand how a devotee becomes successful. Prabhupada said, a devotee does not become successful simply by endeavor. A devotee becomes successful by pleasing Krishna. And when Krishna wants to make him successful, he becomes successful. So sometimes, here you are, and here's the goal, and the shortest distance is straight, so you make a plan. But the real plan is how to please Krishna. When he's pleased, that he makes everything successful. So I don't think we should get too hung up on karma as devotees, because our success is ultimately governed by mercy, by giving pleasure to Krishna, the grace of Prabhupada. And so we saw that in Prabhupada's life. And Prabhupada talked about that in his books, about how the goddess of fortune is how a devotee becomes wealthy, by her grace. And it's not bestowed by Maya. It's not a karmic thing if a devotee becomes successful or wealthy. It's under the spiritual energy. So we shouldn't get too hung up on karma, because our karma is being dissolved. And if Krishna wants to use you, you could be successful way beyond whatever your karma had destined for you. Prabhupada also said that if the spiritual master wants, he could extend the life of his disciple. What do you think of that? Sound good? If you have service, maybe, I think it was when Prabhupada had his heart attack, I think, as I remember, he said he was actually supposed to die, and Krishna extended his life for his service. That was on the Jaladuta. So that's there, and Prabhupada said he was supposed to be the wealthiest man in India, and his spiritual master. By his mercy, his business was finished. So an astrologer said he would have been one of the wealthiest businessmen, and that business was, his workers stole everything. And that's when he left, took Vanaprastha. So, this kind of karma is not under the stars at birth per se, it's under the transcendental system. So really, it's not good to get too caught up in, this is my karma, I can't do this. So, let me read what, I want to cover all these points here. So the first point, you're working hard to get something, but you fall short. And so, is having the wrong belief, is that the fundamental reason? It could be bad strategy, it could be lack of knowledge, it could be so many things. This is an area to look into. Specifically, if you're trying to achieve something and then you fail. Now, how do you know what beliefs are? Have you ever said, I could never, or I always, or everybody knows? If you say that, whatever comes after that is your belief about something. Obviously, if you say everybody knows, everybody doesn't know. But you're saying everybody knows you can't do this, or everybody knows a conditioned soul can't become Krishna conscious, in 10 years. And, I always, whenever I chant Hare Krishna, I always fall asleep, and I just can't stay awake. When you start looking at these statements, nobody knows, everybody knows, it's always like this, I could never do this. There's, it's like this. These are beliefs. Now, all beliefs are not bad, but some beliefs are bad if they interfere with what it is you want to achieve. Here's a classic belief. I could never become Krishna conscious in this life. A lot of devotees say that. That's how they feel. And it may be realistic based on their present condition in Krishna consciousness. But having that belief, the problem is it kind of molds you into a certain disposition and a certain way of looking at Krishna consciousness and a certain way of looking at the world. If you have an hour to do a job that takes 10 minutes, how long do you think it's going to take you? Will you finish it in 10 minutes? Most of us, unless we're super, super busy, would probably take more than 10 minutes. Oh, it takes 10 minutes to do this? You don't need it for an hour? Oh, I'll get it. I'll do it. Oh, and then 10 minutes before the hour's over, you go do it. So yeah, I'm not going to be Krishna conscious. I can't be Krishna conscious. I won't be Krishna conscious in this life. So how does that affect you? Your actions start to reflect that. Well, I'm not going to make it in this life anyway, so why should I try? Why should I work hard in this life to be Krishna conscious? Because I'm not going to make it anyway. So that's the problem with certain beliefs. They start to create barriers, parameters. What's another word I'm looking for? Paradigms. They create paradigms. We've created paradigms with which we work in. Now, another way to understand this is that all of us have rules about many things. When you say, I can't, it's actually a rule that you made for yourself. I can't do this. Well, maybe you could, but you don't realize that you created a rule that says you can't. Well, if that's the rule, then I guess I can't, so I won't, and I won't try. And in Mayapur this year, we had a workshop, and it was all workshop, seminar, retreat. It was all about asking yourself, what are your rules about different things? Rules and beliefs, they're the same. It's just another way of approaching it. What are your rules about this? Well, maybe not always the same, but often the same. You have a belief, you have a rule, it's often the same. What are your rules about this? What are your beliefs? Now, let's deal with something super important, something we do every day, which is japa. And then look at your beliefs about japa. I can't control my mind when I chant. Okay, maybe that's true, right? Would you like to control your mind? Of course. Now, what happens when you say, I can't control my mind? Well, it's a reality which now you're reinforcing, right? So this reality that you're facing daily, you're not controlling your mind well. You believe it's a fact. It's a reality. And because you believe it's a fact, what happens exactly the next day when you chant? You don't control your mind because you've programmed yourself to believe this is what happens when you chant japa. Do you realize if you chant japa a certain way every day, excuse me, it programs you to believe that it's going to be like that more or less, be more or less the same every day. Did you know that? Like, when you chanted your rounds this morning, did you expect that your voice was going to choke, tears in your eyes, and your hair stand on end, and you'd be rolling and fainting, rolling on the ground and fainting? Did any of you expect that was going to happen this morning? Probably not, because it's probably never happened before. So, if it has happened before, you might expect that it could happen again. So, beliefs are formed based on experience. This is what happens every day. So this is what I believe will happen tomorrow. There's a problem there. And you might say, well, that's logical, and that's the way it works. There's a problem there. What if tomorrow you don't want that to happen? What if you have another goal that's far beyond that, far better? Like tomorrow I got a taste. Tomorrow I was very absorbed in the holy name. I was praying. I was feeling. I was meditating on my relation with Krishna. I was meditating on his pastimes. What if that's your goal? But little known to you, you have a belief inside that japa is going to be the same way today as it was yesterday, last week, last month, last year. That's just the way it's going to be. That's how I chant. I can't chant any better. I've tried. It's just the way it is. I can't control my mind. Those are all beliefs. And now you can see, I think it's clear, that when you have those beliefs, it confines you. It's like you're in a cage. You can't get beyond your japa unless you get some special mercy from some Vaishnava or Krishna for doing some amazing service. As long as you have those beliefs, they confine and they restrict your japa to conform with the restrictions you've put on it, put on yourself. So it's like we do this and we don't realize it. We're like telling ourselves, my japa can only be as good as this, whatever this is, and it'll be different for each of us. My japa cannot be any better than this. A lot of us do that. And then we wonder, why is my japa not improving? Because we've already predetermined it can't be any better than this. And so even though we try, Hare Krishna, inside we've conditioned ourselves through our beliefs that it won't go higher than this. So let me illustrate this. Let's say this is our belief. This is the threshold of what we believe we can do. So when you come to this threshold, if you have a belief you can do up here, you'll push and you'll go higher, right? Because that's your belief. If your belief is here, when you get here, you won't push to go higher because you believe this is all you can do. That's one problem. The other problem is when you have a belief here, the way beliefs work is beliefs mirror the external. So whatever you're thinking, the external, it naturally mirrors this, so it aligns with your beliefs. So you can say, see, I told you I could never chant good japa. I can prove it to you because every day I never chant good japa. But you don't realize that your belief is causing you to conform to what you believe. And if you believed up here, you would conform to that. That's amazing to think about. That what's going on externally, it's like we're forcing the external to conform with what we believe. That's interesting. It's like It's like, has this ever happened to you? Like, you tell somebody, oh, when I do this, I just break things when I do this. Or when I do this, this happens. And then they say, well, go try it again. Maybe it'll be different this time. And then you go do it and you break it again. And it's because this belief is so dominant that it forces the external to conform with what you believe. And I've told a story before. This is amazing. And this is verified story. A man accidentally was locked in a walk-in. Someone locked it from the outside because the shop was closing earlier, and he didn't. Normally they close at 5, but today they close at 4. There was a holiday. And so normally they would lock it at 5. So the man was working inside the cooler doing his work, knowing that he could get out up till 5 o'clock. So sometime after 4, shortly after 4, he tried to get out, and the door was locked. And he couldn't contact anybody. And there he was, stuck, and it was Friday. And he realized that he's going to die of hyperthermia, I think it's called. Isn't it? Hyperthermia. He's going to die of hyperthermia. And so he wrote a note to his family explaining what was going to happen, that he's locked in this walk-in cooler. It's set to whatever, 0 centigrade or like that. And, it's his last note to his family. And that's actually what happened to him. He died of hyperthermia. He froze to death. But what's amazing is that for some reason, I don't know the details, the man who locked the door pulled the plug out. I guess there was nothing in there that had to be cool. So the temperature was about, in centigrade, it was like 15 or 16. And that's about like 62 or something, or it was like 17. It was like, it was like sweater. It was like sweatshirt weather, hoodie weather, like a long sleeve shirt and a hoodie. That was, it was a little cold. But he thought it was much colder. I think he thought it was around 0 or freezing. And there's no reason he would have died because it wasn't cold enough to die. And the only reason he died is because he thought it was 32. That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, think about that. That's crazy. The mind believed it was 32, and the body responded. The reality responded to what the mind believed. And they did an experiment. They gave knee surgery. There was a group of people that required knee surgery for the same problem. But half of them were given surgery, and the other half, they just made a little cut on their knee and sewed it up. And they recovered equally. Interesting. And one writer, a doctor who studied this, he said that a lot of the medicines you get are placebos. There's nothing in them. And one of the classic ones, you may have seen this, is they gave some women a patch, and they told them it'll make them feel better, it'll boost their self-esteem, they'll be happier, more self-confident, more self-loving, like that. These things would happen. And so they were monitoring them, and every day they would send a video and to tell how they feel. And so the first few days, nothing changed, and then after a while, they started noticing changes, more self-confidence, felt better about themselves, felt happier, more self-compassion, whatever. And then at the end of the study, they came in and to talk to the researchers who were doing the study, and the researchers said, would you like to know what's in this patch? And they said, yeah, this is amazing. I feel incredible. So they gave him a patch, and they said, just turn it over. It has the ingredients on the back. And on the back, it said nothing. It was a placebo. And because they believed that these things were going to happen, their physiology and their psychology adjusted to it. So that gives us some idea of how what we're thinking can affect us physically and affect the environment. But I was I was just using this in terms of our sadhana as an example, because that's one of the most relevant things for us. In terms of putting a limit on what we can do, and this is what I've seen. Whenever we put that limit, which has come from a belief in our own limitation, then we only work up to this point because we believe that's the point that I can work towards. Like if I said, Amrita, Radhika, you could be an amazing this or that. And if she says, I know I could be, or how you say it in I know, Prabhu, I know I could do that. If she says, I know I can do that, and that's what I'm working for, pretty certain at some point in her life she'll be successful in doing that. If she says, I could never do that, that's a belief. Well, I know I can do that as a belief, and I could never do that. Anytime you say, I could never do that, that's a belief. But I want to tell you something funny. If I say, Amrita Radhika, I need you to edit a video, and she's like, electronic stuff, computers, I can't do it. But she doesn't say that. No, she doesn't say that. She just goes like this. That's a belief. That you didn't have to say it, but what is the belief? The belief was, I can't do that. I can't do electronic stuff. So when you go, that's actually a belief. Isn't that interesting? Oh, japa. Oh, no, I have to chant japa. Belief. Like beliefs are everywhere. Oh, no, I should read Prabhupada's books, but belief. I can't do it, so I can't. So, we're not talking about like, Amrita Radhika, go jump to the moon. And she says, I can't do that. Yeah, obviously. We're not talking about transcending gravity or natural law. We're talking about things, different things. So, what I would request you is to try to start now catching yourself, meditating on how you limit yourself, because the limitations are all coming from beliefs. What about this one? How many of you learn shlokas? Like maybe like a shloka a week. That's 50 shlokas. I showed you my shloka box last year. There's like 500 shlokas in there. There's all these people on Facebook, selling something. And I told you last week, we have a piano, and I was thinking, well, maybe I should learn to play it, because I don't play it that well. I play it okay, maybe I should learn to play it. So Facebook has algorithms. And then I'm getting all these piano teachers online. And what are they all saying? You can do this. They're playing the piano. And we're looking at this thing. I could never do that. And they're saying, no, you could do that. It's not that hard. They're trying to shift your beliefs. So just, Vrindavani, you could learn to play violin. No, I could never do that. So you catch yourself and say, I couldn't keep a tune. I couldn't. So you catch yourself and say, okay, now I understand it's a belief. Maybe it's true. Maybe Vrindavani couldn't. But if it's not true, it's a belief which is holding her back. And the problem is, if she wants to learn the violin, she really wants to learn it, and she believes she can't, she'll never be successful, because that belief will then manifest externally. Everything internally manifests externally. I could never do blank. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You could never do it, because it will manifest externally. I would like to also point out that, as we know, Prabhupada was not a small thinker, and he was not a man of limitations, and he liked it when devotees thought big. And I can testify that by his association, we thought crazy big things, like way beyond our abilities. And many of these things we did, we succeeded, which is the nature of young people. They're not smart. Young people aren't smart enough sometimes to know their limitations. And then they completely bust through their limitations. Their parents will say, no, you can't do that, but it's not going to work. And the young kid is like considered foolish because they don't have, when you're younger, you tend to have less limitations. As you get smarter, you start limiting yourself. It's just based on experience. But I think the combination that we were young, but the combination that Prabhupada was very, like anything's possible if Krishna wants. We just adopted that thinking, whether it was our samskara or not, whether we had that nature or not, we adopt that thinking. And that was one of the factors that was largely responsible for our success. We didn't normally put limits on what we could do because we always thought, well, Krishna can do it. And so we weren't really looking so much at our limitation. We were looking more at the fact that Krishna's unlimited. And so for us, it was quite easy to do things we were not so qualified to do because we didn't have those beliefs blocking us. But you can understand, as soon as you have a belief that limits you in some way, you will psychologically and physically and in every other way conform to certify, to validate, to make certain that that belief will prove to be true. It's the way psychology works. And then you say, I told you I couldn't do it. It's just a validation of your belief. Because you had the belief that I couldn't do it, material nature responds with that belief, and then you fail and say, I told you, you shouldn't have asked me to do this. I can't do it. I couldn't do it. So, if for example, just imagine, right, you're trying to do something. Okay, Amrita Radhika is trying to become the number one kirtaniya in the three worlds. And she's, everyone's saying, why don't you do this? And she's saying, I'm not that good, I could never do it. I just don't think I could do it. And I move into Amrita Radhika's house, and every day I say, you could do it. And this goes on long enough until she starts thinking that she could do it. I've reprogrammed her belief. Don't you think she's going to be more successful? Maybe not the number one kirtaniya in the three worlds, but don't you think she's going to be more successful? And maybe her thinking was, I can never do it. I don't sing that well, or I'm not that good a musician. But by me telling her she could do it, then she thinks, okay, then it's worth taking singing lessons, or I'm going to take some music lessons. I'm going to figure this out, or take some harmonium lessons, or mridanga, or whatever it is. So she's more inclined to make the effort because now she has the belief that it could happen. So this is a really very important point, because this is what I am seeing in a lot of devotees. They don't make the effort because they don't have the belief that they can achieve it. Like, if I don't think I can become Krishna conscious in this life, why should I really try to chant good rounds? Or why should I worry about getting up early and worry about doing this or that? Because if I think I can't, naturally my effort is going to correspond. It's going to align with my belief. And that's why these beliefs are more insidious, more dangerous than we actually think. More dangerous than we actually believe. So, much more to be said. I have a series on this. I don't know the name of the series. Does anybody know the name? It should be on SoundCloud. It was about 2 or 3 years ago in Mayapur, I gave a series of lectures. I think at least 10 or so on this topic. And I mean, the main thing to look out for, to be aware of, is if anybody's telling you consistently you can't do something and you buy into that, it'll become a belief, and that belief will be true. You won't be able to do it, and vice versa. So that's one way that we adopt beliefs. Someone's telling us, yeah, you can. Or your mind is saying, you can. Yeah, you can do this. I know you can do it. Somehow or other, you start to see that you can do it. Then you're going to be able to do it. This is how you get it, or vice versa. You won't be able to do it. And so what I would say to you is look at what you're trying to do and then examine your beliefs and ask yourself, are my beliefs aligned with what I'm trying to achieve? I'm trying to achieve pure Shuddha Nam. I'm trying to achieve certain stages of bhakti. Do I actually believe it's possible that I could do that? Do I believe I could get there? Or am I thinking in this life, no, I'm just not that Krishna conscious, it won't happen? Because if you think the latter, the sad, sorry part is that's probably what's going to happen until you change that thinking. So I would ask you to become aware of your subconscious, especially in areas that are important. Like maybe you're not having a good marriage and you might think, well, I don't have karma for a good marriage. I can never have a good marriage. Or relationships I can't have. I don't have, I never had. This is another way beliefs manifest. Beliefs manifest through experience. So if you have an experience, often the experience creates a belief. Oh, it's like this. Or you see something, it's like, oh, it's like this. And that's why it's hard to break out of the past into a different future, because the past creates beliefs. Well, this is how it's always been, so I should expect it to always be this way. Not necessarily. It's like at any moment you can be more Krishna conscious. You can try harder. You can do things differently. You can think differently. But generally, beliefs are instilled by experience. I've tried this, I've failed, this is just how it is, I'm not good at this. Maybe you've just had a bad teacher. But it's especially a problem when it's something that's important for you, or it's necessary that it's important. It may not be important, but it's actually necessary. It should be important. And you're holding yourself back and you don't even know why. So then you want to examine, what is it? What's going on in here? That's kind of the essence of what I wanted to communicate. And then yeah. So understanding your own mind and how your own mind works. And subconscious is part of the mind. It's just we're not conscious of it. The mind is the friend, the mind is the enemy. So we're usually aware of our thoughts, and when we say the mind is the friend, mind is the enemy, we try to manipulate on that level. And what I've discovered is that if you don't manipulate on the subconscious level, because the subconscious is producing the conscious thoughts, that's where you run into problems. Someone will say, I've been trying to control my mind about something, and I keep thinking of it, or I'm attached to it, I'm trying to detach, because the subconscious hasn't changed. You're looking at it in a certain way. By looking at it in a certain way, it's producing thoughts. So sometimes trying to control or change the thoughts without changing the subconscious doesn't work, because the subconscious is what's under the conscious mind producing what you're thinking. And so you look at the world a certain way, you look at people a certain way, you look at things a certain way, and that produces certain thoughts. And then you don't like the thoughts. You say, I have to control these thoughts. So you try to control them. But often what happens is the thoughts keep coming because the subconscious hasn't changed, so it's producing the same thoughts. If you change the subconscious, the way you see the world, yourself, what you believe about the world, then it changes. Does that make sense? So let's go back. See what you're all saying. Then if you have any questions. So I think the first question was Amrita Radhika. What about beliefs that have been formed in the subconscious mind from childhood, possibly brought across from past lives? Yeah. How do those old beliefs affect with newer beliefs we have created? You have around Krishna consciousness as well. What I know about this is that you can't override an old belief with a new belief. You have to get rid of the old belief. The new belief has to dissolve it. Otherwise, you have conflict there. The old belief will come up also. So, we have a whole set of new beliefs in Krishna consciousness, and they're meant to replace the old beliefs. And I think one very important thing that can come from this talk is that the belief is not necessarily a belief in yourself. It's a belief in the process, and you just have to believe that if you do the process, you will achieve the goal. Because if you think, I can't achieve the goal, that's okay. But you don't want to think about it in terms of, I'm not going to endeavor for it because I can't achieve it. You think, okay, by grace, by mercy, I can achieve it. That belief will empower us. But if we think, well, everything depends on me and I can't achieve this, I have this limiting belief that I can only go so far, that's unfortunate because that's what will happen. You'll only go so far. So when we say self-confidence, we say capital self. So ideally, you just want to be aligned with all the beliefs that Prabhupada has given us and all the beliefs that are necessary for you to be successful in your service. And anything else you want to be able to dissolve as antagonistic to what you want. And just like, it doesn't work. One of the things I learned, an interesting thing that I learned is that one of the way beliefs are formed is they're formed to be able to cope with situations. And then when situations change, people still cling to those same beliefs, but they don't apply in the new situation. And in fact, they undermine the new situation, but they don't let them go because they don't know they have them. So it makes sense that you would think a certain way. Maybe you were raised in a certain situation, but now that you're an adult, that belief doesn't protect you and it actually harms you. As a child, it protected you. So that's something to consider. Dr. Bruce Lifton has lots of evidence on the topic of belief. There's a saying, if you believe you can or can't, you're right, yeah. Who said that? Someone said Henry Ford said it, and I just read it the other day, and someone else's name was on it. Probably a lot of people have said that. So the idea of that statement, if you believe you're right, or you believe you're wrong, you're right. Whether you believe you're right. If you believe you can do it, or if you believe you can't do it, you're right. Yeah, so whatever you believe will be the result. Of course, there's obviously limitations, but we understand the general idea. Amrita Radhika. But as a devotee, we should be trusting that Prabhupada, Krishna will empower and help us. Yeah, well, that's also a belief. Yeah, everything that Prabhupada's telling us should become our reprogrammed subconscious. That Krishna will take care of us. Okay, that's my new belief. Krishna will take care of us. I work. I have no worry. World's blowing up. This virus. What's the next virus? The next atomic bomb? Who knows? What crazy guy is going to get hold of the government? This, that, and the next thing. Yeah. Krishna will protect me. I trust him. That's the idea. I believe that. So, yes, that's how we should be. Our belief should align with what Prabhupada's telling us. Prabhupada said you can go back to Godhead by chanting and following the principles. So, yes. Now, Tali asked a question. I'm not sure I understand your question. How can we identify when the believers provides of others? You mean, can you ask that question again, Talia? Because I don't understand exactly what you're saying. Are you saying when others are putting their beliefs on us, how we can identify that? Well, if that's the question, I'll answer that question. If you adopt the beliefs of others, they may be good beliefs. So you may want those beliefs, or you may be acting against yourself. It actually, in one sense, it's not so important where they came from, although it's nice to know how you picked up on it because it can help you. But it's just important to know you have beliefs that don't help you. Amrita Radhika is going to work. Wow. See you later. So, the series on beliefs is on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Well, how can we identify if the beliefs of others interfere with us? Only if you start believing like them. And it's a wrong belief. If you get affected by it. But the point of this class is to be aware of your beliefs and determine how your beliefs are interfering with what you want to achieve. And then you're going to need to change those. First is identify, and then think, what would be the right belief? I could see this is the wrong belief. What would be the right belief? What should I, if I want to achieve this, what would be the right belief? If I want to achieve something in Krishna consciousness, or in anything, what would be the right belief? And if I say I have the wrong belief, maybe it came from someone, but that's not so important. But you should understand what the right belief is. So if you find the wrong belief, then ask yourself, okay, so what would be the right belief? This belief is harming me, what would be the right belief? I can't be Krishna conscious in this life, or I can't control this, can't. What would be the right belief? It's possible by the mercy of Prabhupada to be Krishna conscious in this life if I apply it properly. That would be the right belief. And Jill says, I'm sorry, Buddhism and anything concerning it is totally to my unliking and against my religion. Very selfish, hating religion. I don't want to meditate. I'm fine with smoking and no medication. I don't understand how Buddhism came up. Buddha is definitely not God. He didn't create the heaven and earth things. How did we get into Buddhism? I'm not sure. I can't really say anything. According to Bhagavatam, well, you have to distinguish between Buddha and followers. They're not the same. Buddha is an incarnation of God, according to the Bhagavatam. But what the followers do is, another thing. So the series is called Beliefs. It's on YouTube. How do you change the consciousness behind the belief? You call up Sundari Radha and she'll tell you. Remembering that by Krishna's mercy, I can do it and repeat myself. Well, there are many ways. One of the ways that I find. Okay, we have to get out the sun. There's so much sun coming in. I have to, every day at this time I have to move out of the sun. Start acting as if that belief were a reality in your life. Let me close the door for aesthetics. Okay, Krishna Priya, you can be Krishna conscious. Start acting like that. Start acting like you can be Krishna conscious in this life. Just start acting that way, see what happens. That continual action, that repeated action, that habit of doing it over and over again, that instills in the subconscious a new way of thinking. It's like learning to drive. You practice and then it's just natural. So if you practice acting a certain way, if you have good sadhana, you rise early, you chant good rounds, you do that every day, then you develop a belief, obviously, that it's possible to do that. You develop a belief because of experience, the power of the holy name, the power of Krishna consciousness. See, this is a good point. There's a problem that we face and we don't realize it. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta talked about it. When you don't execute Krishna consciousness well, you lose your faith in it. Because faith is often a byproduct of experience. This is one of the main ways that we develop beliefs. It's through experience. Something's happening again and again, so that becomes a belief. I believe that this is the way the world is because this is what's happening. So we were using the example of bad japa. If every day I chant bad japa, I will believe that bad japa is just the way japa is done. There is no life beyond bad japa. Something like that, right? I might start believing everybody chants bad japa. Every Kali Yugaite chants bad japa. Every Westerner who joins ISKCON must chant bad japa. There's no way to chant good japa. Why would you believe that? Well, one of the main reasons you'd believe it is you never chant a good japa. Now, if I could help you chant good japa, That would change your belief, don't you think? But the first thing I would do, or one of the things I would do, is I'd have to tell you that it's possible. I'd have to convince you it's possible to chant good japa, and you should endeavor for it, and these are things you can do. And then you start doing it, and it starts happening, your beliefs start changing because of experience. So if you act a certain way that's aligned with the belief you want to have, then the belief starts to change and align with the action. So that's the easiest way to start. Just start acting. Like we'll use this example. I could be Krishna conscious in this life. I could chant good japa in this life. I could do ABC. Whatever it is that you think you can't do, I could do it. Start doing it. Then you'll see. You can do it and the beliefs change. Start thinking differently about things. Like you might think, Krishna Priya, you might think, I can never control my anger, but that's a belief. And as long as you think like that, you'll never be able to do it. Because that thinking is stopping you, that thinking is stopping you from being able to control your anger. Right? I could never control blank, whatever your blank is. How can you control something that you believe you can never control? Why would you even try to control it if you believe you can't? So for you, I would say you start believing that you can, but start acting. Okay, I'm not going to get angry. I'm going to practice not being angry, because by practicing not being angry, the belief that I could overcome anger will start happening. But even to practice not being angry, you need some faith that it can be done. And then you want to look at what's the belief behind my anger. Why do I always become angry? What's my belief? Like I'm supposed to control the universe? Is that my belief? I believe everything in the world should happen just the way I want it. Everyone should bow to me. I mean, what are you thinking? Because there may be, at the root of your anger, there may be some belief that's nourishing the anger, that if you just change that, the whole problem would change. So you want to examine, if there's a certain behavior you want to change, what's the belief that's fostering that behavior? Like, I'm the supreme enjoyer. Well, that's the belief that fosters material existence. If you just undermine that belief, you've just undermined I'm a material existence. I'm the supreme controller, the supreme enjoyer. You undermine those two beliefs to I am the servant and Krishna's enjoyer. Yeah, you've gone from material to spiritual in 1 second. So when you're looking at something and maybe you give in to something, you think, what was my belief? I could be happy with this. I could be happy with something material. So we want to develop beliefs which are aligned with Krishna's teachings in the Gita. When you have a belief deeply ingrained that nothing material can make me happy, you won't have a problem detaching. It's only when we have the belief that we still think that can make us happy that we have a problem. So if you act as if material things can't make you happy, by engaging more in Krishna consciousness and detaching, gradually that belief becomes stronger. Anyway, that's one answer. You should listen to the series. So PC says, through continuous practice of sadhana every day, try to believe that our dharma is serving Krishna. So can the daily recitation and service be preserving and full of joy? Yeah, but even if it's not full of joy, you have faith that it will be. Yeah. It's like your question, the answer is, what do you believe? Through practice of sadhana every day, try to believe that our dharma is serving Krishna. So can the daily chanting and service be preserving and full of joy? Yeah, if you believe it can. The beliefs are interesting. It's an interesting answer. Anyway, report back to me next week, Krishna Priya. about your progress. Give the belief a different meaning, create new rules, and practice every time the belief is triggered. Yeah, so Krishna Priya, what are your rules? What are your rules about anger? It's okay to get angry? That's your rule? It's good to get angry? I deserve to be angry? My anger is justified? What are your rules? You have to change those rules. Right? See, a rule is like you're talking to yourself. And so, if you get angry, what has happened is you've allowed yourself. You have a rule that it's okay. But let's say you get upset with your husband. That means you have a rule that it's okay to get upset with your husband. If you change the rule, what happens? The rule changes. It's not okay to get upset with my husband. It's not okay. The new rule, it's not okay. So realize right now you have a rule with you've made a rule, you've made a truce, an agreement with yourself that is okay to get upset with your husband. So make a new rule that it's not okay and see how that rule works. You know, we have so many rules we don't even realize what they are. So this class is meant to help you examine. If I'm doing something I don't want to do, what's the agreement I made with myself? Well, the agreement was, it's okay. It's okay if I do this. That's the agreement. So now change it to, it's not okay. What is okay? Now it's okay to be nice, but it's not okay to get upset. Okay. Good rule. I like that rule. Adopt it. It's a great rule. Is it okay to get up late? Is it okay to chant bad rounds? If you chant bad rounds, whether you realize it or not, whether you believe it or not, you have a rule. You have a rule with yourself that it's okay to chant bad rounds. If you never chant bad rounds, you have a rule with yourself that it's not okay to chant bad rounds. It's only okay to chant good rounds. Bad rounds are not allowed in this life for me. If I can't get up early, as early as I'd like to, I have a rule. It's okay to get up late. Or I have a rule that it's hard to get up early, or getting up early is not necessary. So anything you want to do that you're not doing, anything you want to stop doing that you're still doing, you have a rule connected with it, and changing the rule can change everything. Isn't that interesting? I know it sounds simple. It's so simple that sometimes it's hard to believe that that's actually what's happening. But you can experiment with it. Look at your rules and ask yourself, in an area you'd like to change, ask yourself, what are my rules? And then you'll discover, oh, I'm allowing myself to do this. And then things will be different. How do we differentiate if it's a negative belief or it's just not in our nature to do a particular activity? That may require discussion with some other devotees that know you. You know, a positive belief could turn into a negative belief if it's undermining your sanity. Like sometimes I'll try to encourage devotees to do something, and it's not their nature, so it's just, what I was encouraging them to do was positive, but it's not their nature, so it has a negative effect. So, yeah. I mean, ultimately, the way you understand something is you look at this and say, how is this helping me? Materially, emotionally, spiritually. And anything that's not helping, it's undermining or causing problems, causing you to go to back, that is something that has to be examined. That maybe this is not the best thing for me. So, it's not the same for everybody. What works for some doesn't work for others. Yeah, there's her belief, I'm powerless to my anger. So your new belief is I can control my anger, and your new rule is I control my anger. Your new rule is it's unacceptable to become angry, especially with those dear to me. That becomes your new rule. So she hit it on the head. This is really good, everyone. Krishna Priya, who's Namrach Oja, right? Sounds totally Muslim to me. I always look and I go, Namrak, because there's a band called Tadikshava Kronika, Namrak. So we're going to call you Namrak Oja. Oja means Shakti, energy. So Namrak Oja, aka Krishna Priya, she hit her belief on the head. She understood exactly, I'm powerless to my anger. Now the next question for you, Krishna Priya, is what event in your life, if this wasn't brought in from a last life, what event in your life caused you to believe that? And if you find the event in your life that caused you to believe it, then you'll see, before that event, I didn't act that way. After that event, I did. And then you realize this is amazing, one event instilled a belief which changed my life for who knows how many years. So think about, is there an event? But everyone take note that she hit on the nail on the head. I'm powerless to my anger. She has sometimes difficulty with her anger, and that's the belief. And so, yeah, so as long as you believe that, then when the anger comes, what do? You don't try to control it. You just think, I can't control it. And your husband says, stop yelling at me. I can't stop yelling. And he's thinking, what are you talking about? You can't stop yelling. I'm powerless to my anger. Wow, what a belief. Okay, but what we can do is we can take this to the next level. And we can say, everyone listening to this, fill in, she said anger, fill it in. I'm powerless to my what? My lust, my greed, my envy, my sloth, my laziness, my overeating, my neglect, my nastiness, whatever it is that is getting in the way between you and Krishna. If you have this belief, I'm powerless to this, today is your day to change that. That I will take, and the new belief is I take control of my, whatever it is, laziness, sloth, lust, greed, anger, envy, whatever it is. You take the tendency to criticize, the tendency to do whatever. Today I take control of that. Today's the day I take control. That's the new belief. And then you'll see, if you can adopt the new belief, amazingly, and I know this sounds simple, but I think you're all starting to understand how this works. Amazingly, your behavior starts changing. And then you realize it was that belief that was causing me to give up on myself, because I felt I was powerless over my whatever it was. I'm powerless over my spending of money. I'm powerless over my certain behaviors that harm my relationships. I'm powerless over this or that. You are not powerless over anything unless you give your power to that thing. So Krishna Priya, you gave your power away to your anger, but just take it back, and then you can control your anger. Your anger is just an emotion. You are spirit soul. You're far beyond your anger, so if you decide to control it, you can. The rules, Sundari Radha says, the rules empower the belief one way or another. So the rules within the belief need to be examined. Yeah, it's just like you're going from one place to another. So, you want to take the direct route. So, the direct route is the beliefs. The beliefs get you there. If you have other beliefs, you're going to get sidetracked. This might help for anger. This emotion includes being irritated, angry, resentful, furious, or enraged. This emotion might be telling you that an important rule or standard that you hold for your life has been violated. Change your perception, change your procedures, change your behavior, change your rules. I don't know, if you've all taken my forgiveness workshop, it's online. You go to my website, you can take it. And in that forgiveness workshop, one of the exercises is a list of beliefs that interfere with forgiveness. In other words, if you have these beliefs, it makes it difficult and sometimes impossible to forgive. And sometimes people don't know why they can't forgive. And sometimes the simple reason is they have beliefs surrounding forgiveness that they grew up with that make it impossible to forgive. Maybe your belief is you can forgive anyone, but you can't forgive a family member. Family members should love you. They should not harm you. And if a family member harms you, then it's an unforgivable offense. Maybe that was your family culture. And now you're trying to forgive someone and you're thinking, I can't understand why I can't forgive him. I'm trying so hard. I took your class. The reason may be you have a belief that prevents you from forgiving. And when they interviewed the Amish and said, how did you so easily forgive this event? You just forgave like the next day. And they said, oh, we forgave long before it happened. So their rules, their beliefs are all oriented towards forgiveness. So there's no transition to make. It's just, that's just what they do. So, is that okay? Is that more than okay? Is that super okay? Param okay? It's param okay. Yeah, okay. Now it's time to end class. Well, no more questions, no more. Anyway, a lot to think about. This, if this stimulated you and you want more, then just go to YouTube and look for beliefs, and then we discuss it more. And it's an interesting topic. But if from this class you're able to discover some disempowering beliefs about yourself, and then understand you've made this agreement that it's okay to do this. I'm allowing myself to do this. Change the rule. I do not allow myself to do this. It's a new rule that I make with myself. It's interesting. We have rules with ourselves. And if you start thinking about the rules you have with yourself, you realize you have lots of rules with yourself. Isn't that interesting? We have all kinds of rules with ourselves. So, when you're looking at a problem, just ask, well, what's the rule? Because I'm allowing myself to do it, so the obvious rule is it's okay, or I deserve to, or what did you say? You hit it on the net. You hit the nail on the head. I am powerless to my, or that's one belief. I'm powerless to my mind. I deserve to be angry. I can't control my anger. What's the number of beliefs? Anger is, it's my life. Gives me life. Sometimes it does give life. It's not that all anger is bad, but that's the idea. Okay, so we're off, and tomorrow is Sunday. There'll be no class. Oh, tomorrow night there's going to be a kirtan at 7:30. I'll have to give Radhapriya that information. It's on the temple in India. It's called Rohini. We'll get the information. We'll send it out. And if you want to join us and you're awake, that'll be 7:30 is 1 hour from now. Well, it's actually 54 minutes, 53 minutes from now. Tomorrow night we'll be doing kirtan. Okay? All right. Thank you for attending. It's nice being with all of you. And we will see you maybe tomorrow. If not, Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Brahmanandi. Hari Hari Bol.